Hello there. I just wanted to say a big thank you for tuning in today. I hope everyone is keeping well and staying safe. And just a friendly reminder that if Division One NCAA baseball is something that you're interested in playing right out of high school, it is still a dead period for recruiting. So what that means is college coaches cannot go to these showcases, they can't go to these tournaments, they can't see players actively playing. So a lot of people, a lot of programs are relying on recruiting videos and the connections that they already have in order to do their recruiting over the next year or two. So um, there's been no better time for an international student athlete to really get on someone's board and be a part of the discussion. So I hope everyone's out there casting a big net, trying to forge as many connections as they can, and really dominating their recruiting video and getting as many eyes on it as possible. I hope everyone's all the best on their journey. And again, if I can help assist in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I'd love to help answer any questions or provide any direction from my experiences. Now, we'll get to the video because that's what we're all here for. I had the opportunity to talk with Coach Cliff Godwin at East Carolina University, which is also his alma mater. So he's the head coach at a school he played at, which is pretty special. Um, he has quite the stellar hat collection as well. He has coached at UNC Wilmington. He's been baseball operations at Vanderbilt University under Tim Corbin. He's also made coaching stops at Notre Dame, LSU, the University of Central Florida, and Ole Miss before, again, getting the head coach at East Carolina University. So without further ado, enjoy Coach Cliff Godwin, East Carolina University. Coach, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Josh.
No, the pleasure's absolutely all mine. Can't wait to learn about the program there at ECU. Now, first, before we get into baseball, what inspired you to get into the coaching realm in the first place?
Well, probably first, my dad was a high school basketball coach. So I played football, basketball, and baseball in high school. I just was around sports from the time I could walk. Spent a lot of my spare time as a young kid, 2 to 5 years old, just being at basketball practice with my dad. So I loved sports. I was blessed with a lot of great coaches in high school. My high school baseball coach, James Rabbit Fulgham, is in the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. And as you know, they don't just pass out those awards. You have to earn that. He won a ton of state championships. So great influence on me. Also helped me get to East Carolina. At East Carolina, I was coached by Keith LeClaire, who passed away with ALS back in the summer of 2006. But I was fortunate enough to be able to play for him and a lot of great coaches before he passed away. So I was at East Carolina from 98 to 2001. Coach LeClaire was hired in the summer of 1997. So I played all my 4 years under Coach LeClaire and his coaching staff, which was Tommy Eason, who's the head coach at Pitt Community College here in Greenville in East Carolina's Hall of Fame. He played at East Carolina as well. Kevin McMullen, who's the associate head coach at UVA. So was just around a lot of great coaches that influenced my life in such a positive way. So really didn't come into college thinking I was going to be a coach. I actually wanted to be a lawyer. That was my goal. I was going to get my undergrad from East Carolina, then I was going to go to law school. And at some point in time, and I don't know the day, but I just couldn't see myself not being around athletics. And so when we lost in the Super Regional in 2001 to Tennessee, and my life went from going 100 miles an hour to slamming into a brick wall and not really knowing what was next. I was in the MBA program to get my master's in business administration, but I was getting educated, but I really didn't have a plan about what was next. And so I played a couple years of independent baseball, and then I just got into coaching once I graduated from the MBA program. And I started out at high school and went to UNCW for a year, Vanderbilt for a year, Notre Dame for a year, LSU for two, where we went to Omaha in 2008, UCF for three, where I met Jeff Palumbo, who's my associate head coach. We were both assistants there. Then went to Ole Miss for 3 years, and we went to Omaha in 2014, and then East Carolina hired me as the head coach. So I've been blessed to work for a lot of great head coaches too. Tim Corbin, obviously one of the best, has won 2 national championships. Paul Maneri has won a national championship. Coach Bianco is the longest tenured head coach in the SEC. Mark Scaff, who just retired from UNC Wilmington. So a lot of head coaches who are considered some of the best. So I just was blessed throughout my career to learn from the best.
Oh, wow. That was kind of leading into my next question, is that you've been able to coach at all these incredible programs, and now you get to be the head coach at your alma mater, which I'm sure is very special. Um, Throughout that process, do you feel like you have had a mentor, or even at this stage right now, are there some coaches that you kind of lean on from their experience to help shape your prowess and your coaching style?
Well, it goes back to, my dad, my grandparents who I worked in the tobacco fields for. You're always being molded into who you are. But specifically for the college coaches, I mean, Kevin McMullen, who's the associate head coach at UVA, he was my catching and hitting coach at East Carolina my last 2 years. So he was a big influence. And then I go to UNCW after Kinston High School, and Mark Scaff, who had recruited me some out of high school, and now I'm working for a guy. And the thing I took away from him was he's a head coach at UNCW, and he treated everybody the same. He treated everybody great, no matter if you were the president of the university, the guy that was working on the field, the student manager. I just appreciated that about him. And he allowed a young, energetic coach to come in and work with the catchers and assist with the hitters, and didn't look over my shoulder, and just had a ton of trust in me. And then I went to work for Tim Corbin. I was director of baseball operations. And I tell people, in that 1 year, if you took 1 year of my life and said, hey, when did you learn the most about college coaching? I would say that year, because I was pretty much his right-hand man. I was in his office as much as any person, just helping him with the behind-the-scenes stuff. And then with practice organization, I was just seeing all the different, the different things that were just attached to his program, from fundraising to compliance to practice to recruiting. You just had your hands in a piece of all of it. And I was like drinking out of a fire hose when I worked for him, but it was awesome. And then I worked for Paul Maneri for 3 years, one at Notre Dame. At Notre Dame, I froze my tail off. I'm a Southern boy. And of course, Notre Dame's in the north, and it snows a lot. As we know, that's not a ton of fun to play baseball in. And then he was hired at LSU as the head coach. So it wasn't, like a plan to go to Notre Dame for a year and then leave. Just Paul was hired as the head coach at LSU. And we went down there, and the program, to its standards, had fell on hard times. And after our first season, we weren't very good. And in 2008, we won 23 games in a row, which still today is the longest winning streak in SEC history. And went to Omaha in 2008 at Rosenblatt. Then went to UCF with Terry Rooney, who was the recruiting coordinator at LSU. He was hired at UCF as a head coach, and I was the associate head coach there, recruiting coordinator. And that was a time where I really learned how to recruit, because up until that point, I had worked at some bigger schools, and not that recruiting's easy, but when you're coaching at LSU, you kind of go pick out the best player and just say, hey, we want you to come. And they say yes. Not all the time, but it's easier than when you go to UCF and they weren't very good, and you're in Florida, which I think I had been in Florida one time before that, which was when I was 5 years old, to go to Disney World. So I had to learn all the high schools and all the travel coaches. And, once again, you're drinking out of a fire hose, but we got the program going. And our third year, we went to a regional at Florida State. And then Ole Miss came calling. I wasn't looking to leave. And Mike Bianco offered me the position as the hitting coach at Ole Miss. And I was there for 3 years, and just a great opportunity there. And we went to Omaha in 2014. And the stars aligned where there was an opening at East Carolina. I was at a point in my career where they felt like I was qualified enough to be hired as the head coach. And, the thing I wanted to make sure was that East Carolina's administration was committed to winning a national championship. Yes, it's my alma mater, but I wouldn't come back here if I didn't think we can compete at the highest level. I'm too competitive for that. I don't like losing. So, and we have been here actually going into our 7th year. And Jeff Palumbo, my associate head coach, we've been here together from day one, and have built this place with a lot of support staff and great players. And, we've hosted regionals back-to-back years here in Greenville, and went to the Super Regional in 2019. And the thing probably I'm most proud of, we've had a 3.41 team GPA for the past 3 years, or higher for the past 3 years. This past spring, we had a 3.61. While they couldn't play baseball, they could just focus on academics at home. I was like, well, our GPA better be good. We're not even playing baseball. So, but the guys have done a really good job.
Oh, that is really special. Now, big buzzword I caught from you there was recruiting, and this kind of podcast is geared around learning about college programs, the coaches that are running them, and how to get recruited. So I guess my next question would have to be is, as you're recruiting players, not only within the state, nationally, and even globally, what are some things that make the process easier from your standpoint? What information can the players share that really gives you a good feel of the type of player you're recruiting? Because I know some coaches like analytics, some coaches like game footage. Personally speaking, what do you like to see in a recruiting video and that first email that a player sends to you?
Well, it's interesting you asked that at a time where you just get inundated with emails. And I've had more direct messages on Twitter in the past, 5 months than I've had in my life. I didn't know I was so popular. I'm kidding. But the thing I would say before you even talk about any kind of footage or analytics is there some connection that you have with East Carolina? So is there a person that that we know that can basically vouch for you? Just because we're being inundated with so many videos, so many analytics. Of course, yeah, if you show a video of a guy throwing, 90 in his strikes, of course that's going to, but if maybe you're not to that level yet, and I'll just, give you an example. I mean, DJ LeMahieu's high school coach, who I don't talk to much, he called me. Well, first off, LeMahieu texted me and says, hey, is it okay for my high school coach to call? And I was like, DJ, anybody can call me, first off. And yes, of course, he helped us get you to LSU. So of course I'm indebted to that guy. So for him getting you to LSU and helping us win a lot of games. So that gets your foot in the door immediately. If his high school coach, Bob Riker, calls me and says, hey, Cliff Godwin is going to be a guy that can play at your level. He wants to go south. Well, that immediately, now we can go to video, and now we can go to analytics. And now we're just, because we have had a relationship with that person before. And if you don't, then you've got to show something that is going to just gauge our interest enough to continue to dive down. And we try to read all of our emails as best as we can. But like I said, we're getting inundated with a lot of emails right now.
I can imagine, especially with the dead period, I think just got extended to the end of September. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Division II coaches get to go out, I think, September 1st, but Division I coaches get to stay locked in quarantine, I guess. So I'm not really sure about how that was voted on, but I guess I'm not smart enough to figure that out.
We don't need to talk about that. We'll just we'll just wear it, and oh gosh, I'm sure the program is going to have continued success, and your resume, the contacts you would have harnessed. I mean, it's oh gosh, I'm sure ECU is going to be in a great spot. Now, East Carolina is located in Greenville, North Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about the city and the campus?
First off, we're about 70 miles west of the Atlantic Ocean. So, I mean, you go east 70 miles from Greenville, you'll hit the Atlantic Ocean, Morehead City, Atlantic Beach. So we're actually not that far from the ocean. Sometimes people think we're farther inland. We're about an hour and a half east of Raleigh, which is kind of the middle of the state, and that's our state capital. It's Eastern North Carolina. It's a college town, which is pretty unique. So that's a big reason that we've led the state of North Carolina in attendance for 20 straight years, is because it's, built around East Carolina University. I mean, people are passionate about ECU baseball. So they tailgate, they have a good time. When we host regionals, it's like having a bowl game in football here on your campus, and it's just buzzing all week, and it's really neat, and it's a great experience. But the the best part about East Carolina, in my opinion, is the people, because it is a college town. And, if you hit the game-winning home run or you throw a shutout when you're out and getting dinner that night, people are going to say, hey, Josh, great game, man. Way to put the Pirates on your back tonight, man, and then get that win. So I think that's a really unique experience that maybe you don't get in bigger cities.
Oh, absolutely. No, that sounds like a lot of fun. Now, to get to that point, you got to go through a rigorous fall program, and I know you've drawn little bits here and there on your path to East Carolina. What is your main objective during the fall to build the culture and build that team to get ready to compete in the spring?
Well, you said it. It's just our culture, and that's a buzzword a lot of people use. And as a coach, I'm always very careful about saying something that maybe somebody could poke holes in. But it's something that we focus on. Probably our younger players, when they come in, even though you've recruited them, you've talked about it, they don't understand that, hey, we're going to learn our mission, our motto, our vision, our Pirates paragraph before maybe we even pick up a baseball and throw it together. And that might be confusing. Hey, I came here to play baseball, but our job is to get them right in here and get them right in here. And then we've recruited a good enough talent, then they're going to get the most out of their ability. So, and it goes into just the daily process of executing your daily schedule at the highest level, and just focusing on getting 1% better every day. A lot of young guys come in our program and they'll look at an older guy who has been in our program 2, 3, maybe even now, since some seniors come back 4 years, 5 years, and go, oh my God, how is he hitting that ball that far? How's he, executing pitches like that? So really just talk about, hey, compare yourself to yourself each day if you're just getting, but you're going to get there. I know it's really fast for you right now, but if you can almost have blinders on and not worry about what some of the older guys are doing. And our older guys, especially at a time like this, have done an unbelievable job when they're not here with us of just educating them on what our standards are. And it takes time. I mean, look, we were nowhere near talking about the stuff that we're talking about in the first week we have our team together back in year one. We were just, trying to get them to understand what work ethic was probably on that first team that we coached here. And that's no disrespect to those guys. It's just, hey, we have a standard and we have to make sure that everybody's meeting the standard.
Oh, great stuff. Now, there's two other really important components of a fall program. There's the strength and conditioning program and guys getting it done inside the classroom. So my first question here is, are there any particular philosophies or insights you can give us about the strength and conditioning program? And I know it's kind of a loaded question because, yes, lifting weights is a very important component to be a collegiate or professional athlete. But what do you guys kind of do there on Pirate Land?
We have a really good strength coach, Brandon Golden, who's as knowledgeable of a strength coach of how the body works. And he's unbelievable with pitchers and just their arm care. And he works with our athletic trainer, Zach Womack. So a lot of communication when you're dealing with pitchers between the athletic trainer, the strength coach, and the pitching coach, and making sure all those guys are communicating on a daily basis. First off, I would say this, in a time where there's so much science out there, and he uses different things of, the rate of the bar speed. So to track that, I mean, a lot of different things that I did not have here at East Carolina when I was here. And Brandon and I talk because I think it's a fine line. There's a science part of it, and then there's a mental side of it. And, one of the things we do, because we did it here when Coach LeClaire coached us at East Carolina, we run 300s. And, that's one time. So we end up running 8 300s by their test time. And I'm sure any strength coach would look at you and go, well, there's no science behind that as far as that making you a better baseball player. Well, the science behind it is there's a time in your mind when you're running those 300s that you go, I can't do this anymore, and that your mind's talking to you. So there's going to be a time on that baseball field, as you know, where there's going to be some self-doubt. And can you push through that? And can you take one more step? And can you take one more step? And that was the thing Coach Claire brought to our program back in the fall of '97 was, we're going to outwork people, and we are going to work harder than everybody else. And there is a mental piece to that, which if you actually believe that you worked harder than your opponent, then you walk on that field and there's a little bit more confidence about you than if you haven't. And that's a big piece to our strength conditioning program. Now, we do make sure that we take care of pitchers and all that good stuff, but it's just a fine line with the science part of it and the mental side of it.
Yeah, I've heard several coaches say this quote where you earn your teammates' trust in the weight room, and that's something that definitely resonates with me. And it sounds like, yeah, it's more than just getting stronger. There's a that culture aspect to it as well. Now, they're getting it done in the weight room, on the baseball field. The elephant in the room, especially as freshmen, is going to class and getting your work done. Are there any strategies that you implement, kind of like maybe a study hall scenario, to help assist your players pass their classes?
So in a normal year, we bring in all our freshmen in the summer before the fall of their freshman year. They take 6 hours. They get acclimated to, number one, campus. Number two, just having to wake up, go to class. They have study hall Monday through Thursday. So they're getting all of that. Plus they can work out with their strength coach. So they get to learn the fundamental movements of what are the basis of our strength program, making sure they're doing it, the technique correctly so they're not getting injured. So they get all of that. Well, this year's obviously been different. They weren't allowed to come here. So we did Zoom calls to try to make sure that they were doing movements the right way. They have an app on their phone where they can go in and put in the weights that they're doing and also put a video in there so that we can monitor their safety. Actually, the company, and I'm sorry, I don't know, but the company that we're using is out of Australia. So somehow our strength coach got in touch with this guy. He was awesome. He had an unbelievable accent when we got on the Zoom call with him. I was cracking up. So, but we implemented that, and then we've just tried to just bob and weave with all the different strategies we've had to utilize with that. They still have study hall right now. It is now kind of scheduled throughout their day because they have more online classes than they have face-to-face in a normal situation. Normally in a normal semester, they would all have study hall Sunday through Thursday. The freshmen from 8 to 9:30, they would be in there together. Now it's around their schedule. One guy might have it at 8 in the morning to 9:30. One guy might have it from noon to 1:30, just around the class schedules that they have in person. So we have that, and then our coaching staff meets with our academic advisor at 9 a.m. every Tuesday. We go through every one of our players and all their grades, and we follow up. We hold them accountable. It's not okay to get a 0. I mean, that means you didn't do what you're supposed to do when you were supposed to do it, so that's not okay. They have access to tutors. They have access to mentors. So they have all the tools they need to be successful. The only way you fail is if you try to fail and you don't do what you need to do.
Great stuff. Now, they've passed their classes, they've dominated on the field, they've made the team. What is it like competing in the American Athletic Conference come spring?
It's a very talented conference. And, since I've been the head coach at East Carolina, we've been anywhere from the 3rd RPI conference to the 5th RPI conference. So you're talking about every year being in one of the top 5 conferences in the country. I've coached in the SEC twice. There's SEC caliber teams in our conference, especially the upper echelon teams that are consistent at the top. The easiest way to describe it is if you play bad, you're losing. If you play good, you still might lose. And that's the way I like to talk about it in our conference. And what we did in 19, we were really good, of course. I mean, we went 20-4, I think, which was 20 wins was the most ever in the American Athletic Conference in the history of the conference. And I really didn't understand how good that was until now I sit back and reflect and go, man, that's being pretty consistent. Every weekend you're going out, and a lot had to do with our pitching and Jake Agnos being pitcher of the year, going out there every Friday night and winning games. And when you win that Friday night game, then all of a sudden you win the series on Saturday. Well, now you got a chance to sweep, and that puts you in a position to get 20 wins at the end of the season.
Yeah. And how's the travel in retrospect to where all the schools are at?
It's interesting. So, we fly everywhere in the American, and we were lucky enough to we've put ourselves in a position, which of course COVID has changed everything. But in 19, we would fly, commercial to the school on a Thursday, and we practice Thursday night, and then we would play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we would charter back to Greenville. So our guys were getting back home between 8 and 10 o'clock at night, compared to flying into Raleigh and then having to bus back and getting back at 2 a.m. So that made a huge difference, I believe, in our guys' rest and their academics, being able to, get 8-9 hours of sleep on Sunday night instead of 4 and still having to go to class on Monday.
Yeah, that's a very important component. Now, when you're out recruiting players, going to change gears just slightly. Besides talent, what are some other determining factors to make you go, "Ooh, I want this person wearing purple in the near future"?
Well, we're going to watch how they play the game. If they're out there just not playing hard and maybe disrespecting the game, then we're going to talk to the coach and ask him, is that a reflection of how he is all the time, or is this, not how he acts? He just had a bad day from his body language and the way he played. We're going to talk to every coach that's been involved with him, his high school coach, his travel ball coach, make sure he works hard and he wants to be the best player he can be, and that he's committed academically. Look, every one of our players are not for other students, but are you going to come in and work at it? And didn't ask you, are you going to love it? Because I was a 2-time academic All-American at East Carolina, and I tell her, I didn't love going to accounting. Nobody does. I haven't met that person if they do. So, but it's a piece to the puzzle, and it just goes along with how you do anything is how you do everything. And we tell our guys that all the time. So if you're going to cut a corner and not go to class or not do as well as you could do, then you're going to do that on some drill in baseball or in the weight room, just because that's a habit that you have. And so we want our guys to go above and beyond in the classroom.
Oh, I like it. Now, you have 11.7 scholarships you're allowed to give out to these players. Are there any other additional help, such as athletic grants, that could be obtained as a student there at ECU?
You have your financial aid packages, but ours are more federal. So, you could get those any school that you were going to. If your family income is at a certain level, you can get a Pell Grant. There's an ECU grant that some guys can use. It's not a ton of money, but it's a couple $1,000s that they can use. Academic money is tough to get at East Carolina because you're just clumped into the general population, and your SAT score, your ACT score, your GPA is put in with every freshman that is coming into East Carolina. So it's just hard to get academic money from a state university like that. So really just the financial aid from the federal is the biggest, I guess, extra money you can get.
Okay. Now, the final question I have for you, and this is geared, again, to athletes south of the equator. If there was one tip that you could give a high school student here in Australia on getting recruited in college baseball in general, what would that tip be? Because they can't always, they're not just a domestic flight away from playing in a perfect game or a PBR tournament. If you have one tip, what would that be?
Josh, I was going to say, hey, Josh, you probably know the answer to that question better than I do. I mean, hey, you've lived it. So, we've never recruited a player from Australia, so I don't know if I'm, educated enough to answer that question. I would say get Josh to sign off on you and, hey, recommend you and say that you're good. And I would say that carries a lot of weight.
Oh gosh, you're too kind to say that. I appreciate that. Coach, well, I can't thank you enough for your time. The information was just invaluable, and sounds like an incredible program you got going there. And hopefully, one day, if the person's worthy enough, there'll be an Aussie wearing purple hanging out in Greenville, North Carolina.
Well, maybe we can get you to come over and see the place first, so then you can go tell the Aussies back there how cool the place is.
I like that idea too.